Hold on. It says your SD card is full over here.
Pop it out, pop it back in. It's not. It's just not reading it.
Where do they hide it?
In the back, right? There's a see where it is? It's just you push it in and push it out. Right there. See it?
No, there it is.
Slight technical difficulty, everybody on YouTube. Now just put it back in. You'll see it.
She said.
You'll see it. Read it. I gotta hype you. They're supposed to not know you're on. They do from the thumbnail, but is it back in?
Yeah. We're great.
Good. All right, we're hot. Sorry about that. Little technical difficulty to everybody on YouTube. We got another episode. I want to get to the sponsors. There's a few thank yous I want to kind of kick out there. I want to thank Gallo Technology, Rhino Metals, Sig Sauer, Right On Optics, Pulsar, Thermal Imaging Technology, and I want to thank a few brands. I want to thank Scott Volkwartsen at Volkwartsen Firearms. Big shout out to him. There's a lot of stuff we've worked on and been working on that I'm super proud of. Enforce Weapon Lights. Shout out to Matt and Enforce Weapon Lights. Go support them. Go check them out. Galco Leather Holsters, Blackwater Ammunition, Kenzie's Optics. And I know Eric will be sharing some of them in the chat. Go support the brands. Guys, please leave reviews. Appreciate everybody that leaves reviews. Please share the episodes. We've been getting a lot of shares lately, especially on Reddit and different forums, so I appreciate all you guys that have been sharing the show. Appreciate everybody. Got a special guest today. He's moving on. This is a big one. I'm excited about his future endeavors. He's very fidgety right now. He's nervous. He's under the hot lamps. He knows he's going to get asked the hard-hitting questions. We have the new, am I getting this right? The new strength and conditioning coach at Texas A&M.
That's part of it. Yep.
That's part of it.
That's it.
Bo Sandoval.
How's it going, dude?
How are you?
I'm excellent.
So tell me about what all went into this and give everybody the exclusive.
Exclusive. Yeah, I mean, our industry is, I think it's kind of written by growth. If you're interested in growth, you do really well in this industry. And, everything about me is I'm always trying to figure out the next challenge, the next growth spurt. And, people that are looking to grow and develop departments and grow, businesses and companies, especially in the sporting world, they're always recruiting. They're always looking for innovative minds and new blood to bring in, new perspectives to bring in to kind of grow. That's where Texas A&M is at the moment. So as they reached out and started kind of having chats with me, it was pretty evident that they are going through a growth spurt and looking to innovate and accelerate kind of the services and things they provide their athletes there. And that's essentially what we've been carving through the last almost 5 years with the UFC PI here in Vegas. And so to bring that kind of perspective to Power 5, Division I, NCAA sports, I think is something that'll be a breath of fresh air to the industry. And aside from that, I'm excited about some of the opportunities to provide. Man, they got a nice little crew of strength and conditioning professionals in there. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity to improve their experiences, provide them, mentorship and leadership and vision, and so they can actually go after some of the aspirations that they have, because they've got some brilliant minds in there. And without some help, without some assistance, it's tough to keep chipping away at all the things you dream to do. And so that's where leadership roles like this kind of help with that. I've got all of my steps. I got boosted by some great mentors and leaders in the field that allowed me to grow and do things outside of my day-to-day operational coaching duties. And that's important, especially to get the true cream to rise to the crop in our industry. So the ability to do that and provide a better experience for my colleagues there, and then ultimately, provide a wow experience for the collegiate athletes that are coming through those doors day in and day out, trying to fulfill their athletic dreams and aspirations. I mean, that's what really kind of gets the blood pumping every day.
I imagine, too, one of the big takeaways at UFC was the experience that they put an athlete through, one of the learning ups and downs. Because I remember S&C back at UMass, and it was horrendous. It wasn't what it is now. It was, I don't want to say horrendous, but it wasn't what it is now. And I imagine, you learned a lot about building out a strength and conditioning experience when you do it from the ground up.
Yeah, what we were able to do with the UFC PI, man, is at a super granular level with each individual. I mean, everything is truly engineered for them in their scenario, where they're at in that moment, getting prepared for a particular fight with a particular opponent with their particular circumstances at that moment in time, and that evolves over time. So to go through that granular process every time they're out of camp or back into camp, that's a unique scenario to be able to do that. Taking those instances, taking that experience and that know-how to engineer something that granular and be able to provide that in the team landscape, and in some cases individual landscapes within NCAA. When you look at things like track and field and swimming, and there are some individual competitive sports you can get a little more granular, but you've also got to address the team aspect, kind of the where we go one, we go all. So there's the physical side of training, which we can get very individualized, and then there's the team approach, which is cultural, and it's more about, what are your pillars of routine and discipline? What's your backbone of your institution and of your program? And that's a big role that coaches play on that level, aside from that granular level magic that we do within the engineering of the programs.
I watched an interesting special just recently in preparation. I prepare for you, even though you think I don't. I watched the Calipari special on One and Done and Kind of Not Done, and that philosophy that's percolated in colleges, and it was super interesting. Now, I have a tie to Cal because I was a UMass guy, so full disclosure, anything New England, I'm usually all in. But it was really interesting to see that battle. And do you feel like he made an interesting statement? He said, I'm preparing basketball players at the University of Kentucky to be in the pros, because that's what I'm preparing them for jobs, and I'm going to generate more millionaires for the University of Kentucky. Now you're looking at sports holistically, amateur sports holistically. Do you see that, they were talking after, it's working for Duke, it's working for a lot of, do you see more of that preparation to prepare some of these guys for what their next step in life will be?
Yeah, I think when you're engineering programs,
and you're coming from a professional sport,
you got to have two perspectives. You got to have the acute perspective. What can I do to get them ready now? And then that
bigger
preparatory
picture.
ladder. What does it look like long term? So if they are there, you're prepared to handle them and keep them progressing. But if, the difference when you see a kid that comes in that's that special and they could have the opportunity to bounce quickly, what are you doing to prepare them for that acute level of success? Because it's reality. It could happen. And I think that's you got to sharpen both sides of that double-edged sword, or someone's going to left stranded and you're not ultimately doing your job. So, you got to be prepared for both. But you also, I think the other side of that is understanding the vision of that coach and that particular athlete, because some coaches recruit differently. Some programs, their backbone is built off of recruiting four-year athletes, and then other programs are built off of recruiting 90% four-year athletes, and they want one. Just give me one blue chipper, and then they'll build the program around that. So it depends on how they operate, but that's why it's important for positions like mine. You got to be versatile. You got to be able to wean and wane and flow with the go.
It was super interesting to me to hear it from Cal's perspective. He was just more or less like, I'm reading the tea leaves here, guys, and all these guys are turning pro. Like, either we embrace that and we use that as a model to build a model around, or we don't. But if we're going to be the best program in the land at the University of Kentucky, we need to kind of understand the guys we're trying to attract are the best in the world, and the best in the world ain't going to stay 4 years.
Yep, definitely.
It's interesting.
I think if you totally neglect that, you're going to set yourself up for failure, because, the blue chipper that got you into the Final Four that year, he's not there 3 months later.
Yeah.
What do you do?
And I watched the Kevin Garnett special. You see it more in basketball, obviously, because the one and done.
If you look at LSU coming off in a national championship in football, a year ago, 2 years ago, and Joe Burrows bounced and immediately. I mean, you could tell how impactful that kid was on that team.
Of course.
It happens every year. And you could probably pick out a few different sports, from hockey, baseball, basketball, football.
And I have to imagine that you coming from a professional organization factored in, obviously, because you understand that dynamic of a pro athlete versus a collegiate.
It helps, and I think more than anything, so one of the things that I was told, at least, it could have totally been bullshit, but when I got brought in at the UFC, was that they were excited about having a fresh perspective. They wanted someone that obviously was familiar with combat sports, but they weren't after someone that was involved in MMA at the moment, because they wanted a fresh perspective coming from different areas of the performance world. And I feel like that's a lot what A&M is attracted to as well. Now we've got someone who's removed themselves for 5 years, immersed themselves in a different genre of sport, different ball of wax, different ball of problems, ball of issues. Now let's bring that back and see what that perspective can provide. Now, look, I'm not an idiot. I bring other qualities to the table as well, but that's a big one in terms of really trying to revolutionize what you're building and what you're developing as an institution. And they got it going on several levels right now. They got a lot of on-campus projects, developing facilities and things around athletics. They've put a lot of investment in personnel. Their dietetics team, their psychology team, their sports med team is monstrous. They have pieces in place, and now it's about, I think it's coordinating and like kind of getting some tunnel vision around the IP. What are we taking all this information, all these brilliant minds now, and let's really carve out how we're delivering services on the NCAA, because honestly, a lot of it's just been regurgitated over and over and over again. It's been done the same way.
And the game has changed since you've been away. Now athletes,
I believe so.
Now athletes can make money.
Yeah,
they can make. And people need to understand when they say make money, Bo. I don't think people fully understand this. They're not signing multi-million-dollar lucrative contracts. They're talking about like what I always thought was preposterous in the NCAA, and it's just my 2.5 cents on it. I mean, little stuff like autograph signings and stuff, ticky-tack stuff where guys they're not making. I mean, unless you see a huge high-level athlete, I mean, these guys aren't selling $1 million. A very small percentage are signing those type of deals. But I mean, to make a guy feel like he can't make a buck because he can sign his name to a poster and make a couple bucks at a signing, I mean, that's ridiculous. That was always fell into, and that's all I'm going to say about it. I mean, that's the level of where I felt it was a little ridiculous.
Sure.
Let him make lunch money.
That's a good way to put it. Let them make lunch money. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things about the NCAA that
changed.
It made it super easy to jump into something like the UFC. And now you've got organizations like the SEC and even the Big Ten in some regards that are starting to kind of carve their own path a little bit. So, there are a lot of, and you put it a good way, I don't want to dive down it too far. All I can say is there are a lot of things that, due to NCAA and due to the setups and regulations around NCAA sport, you are almost forced into a certain level of function as a strength and conditioning professional within that environment. And now there seems to be a little bit more opening for creativity, innovation, and really delivering services as a priority versus just checking a box to say, yes, we have a strength staff. Yes, we have a weight room. It's checked. Athletes are being taken care of. Now it's I like the change of some of the language around innovating the process and revolutionizing the process for a better experience for the athlete and the coach.
Right.
Coaches have had their fingertips on these resources for years, but there aren't very many of them that could say, like, man, I really got to do exactly what I wanted with those professionals to provide a supplement to my program like we needed, because of restrictions, because of, governance and rules, and there's just little hiccups and things where it's like, man, it'd be like, oh, I got this brand new shiny gun. It's amazing. It's the latest in technology, and I don't have any ammo for it. It's a paperweight. And, unfortunately that happens.
Well, don't tell the news that. That might blow their mind. What do you mean? It doesn't automatically load itself? Don't tell that to the news. But no, I think it's going to be a really exciting time for you. Obviously, change is either embraced or hated, and this is one obviously you're embracing because you're asking for it, and I think it's going to be a fun time for you. And obviously, some people just like to build things, and I think it's fun to go in and build things. And at the end of the day, I think when you take an experience maybe that you feel as far as you can go with it, and the time to move on presents itself, I have to imagine a school like Texas A&M would be high up a lot of people's lists, right? And who else is in that echelon, right? Maybe it is a Kentucky or a Duke or a Chapel Hill. I'm trying to think who else would be in that echelon. Maybe Texas straight up Longhorns.
There's definitely counterparts within the SEC. I mean, if you go to some of the bigger, more powerful conferences, I mean, they've all got their staples in the game.
Right.
But you know, the logos only do so much. It's really, the key is around the administration that's currently sitting in the seats, and kind of what their board supports. You know, because you know, everything, whatever I have innovatively in my mind and things that I envision that I want to achieve and accomplish, you know, the leash is only so long depending on the leadership that's governing me. So that's what you have to vet out through the interviewing process, is understand, you know, what the leadership is after. And you have to poke and prod and figure out, am I actually going to be able to put my skills to use? Or is it just going to be another box that's checked? So through that process, that was pretty heavy on the conversations for me, is what exactly are you guys trying to do? What is it that you're aspiring to do? And you can't just say it, you know, show me. Where are the investments at? Where's the headcount at? where are the long-term investments at? Not just, oh yeah, we built a $500,000 weight room. Here it is. That's a one-off thing. Where's the software that's going into it? The people and the operation of it. You know, are you giving us the keys to the kingdom enough to where we can actually make an influence on the athletic population here? And at the end of my investigation of it, I felt pretty confident with all of those things. I like to push buttons a little bit. I like to see where people's ambitions lie, and in doing that, you can figure out if they're going to embrace you or if you're just going to be an irritation under their skin. And for the most part, they liked it. They liked the idea of.
It's amazing how many companies will hire an irritation.
Yeah,
because they want, because they think they want what they want. Dave could tell you all about that. They think they want what they want, but then when you actually present them with the solution to achieve it, it doesn't necessarily work.
100%. It's always a battle, right? And that's, you mentioned some people like to go in and build, and I'm definitely one of those, but I hate stereotypes, and I like to break stereotypes. Just like to say, I've gotten the question a million times, are you excited about getting back into collegiate athletics? I'm like, fucking, I hate that question. Like, no, I like working with all of athletics. If I was working with a junior high kid, whatever, I'm a practitioner. Like, you can put this I'll coach the shit out of this microphone sitting in front of me. But to me, it's not about like, oh, are you jumping from professional sports, collegiate sports? I am attracted to this particular set of problems that they have there, set of issues, set of innovations, changes that they want to go through. I'm attracted to that, and I want to be the one to tackle it, but I want to do it against the grain. I want to do it differently than what a lot of my counterparts do it in NCAA sports. I think it's easy to fall into those stereotypes because you can just fall right into the status quo of how shit gets delivered in college athletics. And I don't want to do that. I've taken the experiences that I've had in college athletics over the last couple of decades, and I've taken the good with the bad, and I want to chip away at what I perceived as bad, and make an improvement not only for the next generation of coaches, but for the next generation of athletes that are coming through there. Mainly because at some point, dude, that might be one of my kids going through those doors, getting recruited, playing athletics. And like, to hear you say at a place like UMass, not that you dogged on it all that much, it just wasn't the wow experience you had hoped for being a college athlete.
Sure.
I don't want my kids to have anything like that to be able to say. So there are coaches out there, some really good coaches out there that are moving the needle in terms of quality control. And if I can just put a drop in the bucket, that's what I'm after.
Yeah, I think when you have that feeling that you're going to be heard, you're going to be able to develop some of your philosophies, implement some of your strategies, you start to appreciate how valuable that is to you in your career and where you're at. And I'm someone that's the same thing. I search for the same thing inside of a company, like how are my philosophies going to be embraced? What type of systems am I going to want to put in place? How would we want to do something? And I think a lot of companies, Dave's going to laugh when I tell this story. It's a story he's very familiar with. I say it all the time. A lot of owners, ADs, people out there, they want to look out at the end of the dock, and they want to stare at the yacht. It's a beautiful yacht out there they got. Everybody's got a yacht. Some of them want to take the yacht out, and some of them want to use it and use all its capabilities. The chopper on it, the sonar. They want to have a good time. They want to sink the fucking yacht like in Wolf of Wall Street. You know what I mean? They want to run the yacht. We don't all want to sink it, but whatever. And then there's owners, they just want to stare at the yacht at the end of the dock. It's like Scrooge McDuck. They just want to open the door and say, is it all in there? you know, and they don't want to use the full power of this battle station, so to speak. And you always hope that you work for an owner that's willing to take that into account. And I say it all the time over and over again. The best owners to work for are the ones that assume everybody else in the room is smarter than them till proven otherwise. But once you show them your ass, then you can't expect the same rope. But you should always be hired on the premise of of what your mission is. And I think that's the best interview you can have is what are your goals? And we'll talk about our goals and let's see if they align. And sometimes you go into it like 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But when you reach the age and stage of the game we're at, you want 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10. You know, because you start knowing the questions to ask. You know, I think I'm safe in saying that.
100%.
You like the yacht story, Dave?
Oh, I love the yacht story. Gosh, it's been so long since I've heard the yacht story. It's like it's all new to me suddenly.
It's magical.
It is,
man,
magic.
especially in the
Christmas
coaching
magic.
field. I talk to guys all the time that are like, "Hey, can you take a look at my resume? I interviewed for this. I came up short. I don't understand. What can I do?" You know, but they spend so much time trying to get the institution or organization or whatever to want them. And I'm like, dude, that's like a third of it. Like, yes, you want them to be attracted to what you have to offer, but then the other 2/3, one is you need to investigate what their ambitions are. You need to investigate what their motives are, and then the other is, does that even remotely come close to what your ambitions are? If you can't, then it doesn't work. Like, you're going to be unfulfilled or they're going to be unfulfilled. It's just, you know, again, going back to I use checking the box. They're just checking boxes. So during that process, that's your chance. That's your one opportunity to really dig and figure out who it is you're trying to work for and what they're trying to utilize you for.
Right. I think asking the right questions and understanding what you want at the different stages of your career become critical. And that's where a lot of guys, they're not necessarily honest. They come in, like I said, they see this shiny yacht and they just say, "I'll take it." You know, it's like Kramer and Seinfeld. He's like, "Sold." You know, they're like, "We'll give you free coffee for the rest of your life." Sold. You know, like, yeah. So you can't get excited anymore when you see a coffee machine in the break room. You have to start to understand like what you're trying to get out of it, what the experience is going to look like, especially today where everybody's building out a whole different structure in how they work, how they approach life. And a lot of these things have to be reimagined by not just companies and brands, schools, and how they bring people in.
Yeah.
It's all going to be reimagined.
It is. That's where it gets tricky in the field of strength and conditioning, because to physically culture someone, you got to be hands-on. So there's not a Skype that can really master that for you.
Right.
And so, you know, that's where we got to kind of push a little bit too, to make sure that our industry stays relevant.
Right.
Well, to do that, you have to showcase best practices. You have to showcase effectiveness. You have to showcase that you're actually providing health and welfare for that population, which just happens to be a really important population because they're 17 to 22 years old.
Right. 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 It's going to be interesting.
So validation is going to be huge in the next few years as they start to continue to chop away at whatever the fuck they define as non-essential employment.
What is non-essential employment?
Exactly.
That's
like the old argument with functional training. People shit on I'm like, what's non-functional training?
Right.
Like,
what does that look like?
It all has a function. It's what the hell are you trying to do?
Right. I don't necessarily, I hope, at least at the college level and because they have like the UFC have a lot of capabilities at that level. I would hope that at the professional levels, like they're already understanding some of those things. You know, it seems to me Texas A&M gets it, you know, because I understand some of the process you went through and what was all involved and what you brought up and things that mattered to you. And they address all those things. But I think the biggest thing as a candidate, to everybody out there that's looking for the quote unquote dream job, you got to know the questions to ask.
Yeah.
And not be afraid to ask them.
Because it's got to be your dream, right? And, you know, you brought up a good point earlier. If you don't know all your wants and all of your desires and what's going to fulfill you, you're going to have a hard time having that sort of investigative process and figuring out if that's the right employer for you. And I think sometimes especially with younger or we'll say less experienced people applying for jobs, they were like, well, I don't really know what I want yet because I don't have the experience. Start simple. Like, what are the simplest things? Like, for you to advance in your job, what does that look like? Do you need other degrees? Do you need continuing education? Like, do you need field time experience? Whatever it is, leverage that shit. I mean, it might be simple. Whereas I'm looking for things like better retirement programs and headcount and better resources and better incentives and bonus structures for the coaches that are working for it. That's a different ball game than an entry level coach coming in. Give me a decent salary. Let me, give me an opportunity to showcase my skills. And am I supported? Do I have good leadership looking after me? Those might be some of the things that I'd be asking, whereas my line of questioning might look a little different where I'm going in at. But yeah, I think people struggle sometimes with that process because they don't have just a clear sight on what it is they want to do in the near future or what's going to lead them down a path of growth and prosperity.
I agree. Can't say it better. There's, everybody out there that, understands, or thinks they understand S&C world. It's really actually a very small world when you boil it down. And there are some very sought after jobs. And I would think SEC, obviously professional organizations fall very high up that chain. And as you start to pursue, or that's the dream, if you're sitting listening to this, like I want to be, trainer to the stars. I mean, that's the pinnacle.
Yep.
I mean, some of those places, I imagine that's your Nike, that's your SIG, that's your Glock, that's your highest level of the high of where you want to be.
At some point, if you're passionate about your industry, you're going to want to get exposed or be experienced or around the best that it has to offer. Because that's just quality experience going to give you another. At some point, you're going to see the lowest level. To see the highest level gives you a different perspective. And then there are some personalities that are going to resonate with wanting to swim and be around those big stars and those personalities all the time. They live off of that. And then others are going to take that experience and they're going to want to target more of what's going to fulfill them personally, professionally, and give them a means to an end. And I feel like that's where I'm at.
Right.
One of the toughest questions I got at A&M was, how are we going to keep you fulfilled? You're used to working with guys wearing championship belts in the UFC and working with these people on a daily basis and, dealing with this multi-million-dollar company. And it's like, well, that's not really what wakes me up in the morning. That's icing on the cake for sure. And it's, it's exciting, but ultimately I want to feel fulfilled by the things that I can achieve and grow. You go back to this thing of being a builder. I love how you said that because that's really kind of what drives me. And the ability to, or maybe we'll say the opportunity to try to break the mold in college strength and conditioning. I mean, that to me, it's only been done a few times over the last few decades. And so I can be one of those to kind of, I don't know, we won't say ruin the party, but just shake things up.
Shake it up.
I would love to do that.
And I've mastered shaking things up, but but I think people have to realize when so a lot of owners ask me of companies, they say, how would I, interview a marketing director? I get asked that a lot. Or who do you have in mind? And I always tell them the same thing. The number one question, there's a couple questions that come to mind in the interview without giving away too much of the secret sauce. I tell people all the time, one, you have to make sure your ideas and ideology are aligned. But two, you have to make sure that person you're bringing in, that's your next wonder child. Okay. And I've been hired by people in this room. And I've said, well, what's the content creation? What's the strategy you're putting together? And do you really want to implement it? Like I said, the yacht, do you really want to take it out? And that question has to be flipped on its head back to you. Because if you're a real strength and conditioning coach and you truly want to implement your ideas, there's a lot of guys who they get to that point, the stage is big, the lights are bright, they reach in their pants and they pull up pudding. And they don't really have a content, they don't have a strategy, they don't have a plan. And that's what gets exposed. How long it takes to expose it, like they say, hire slow, fire fast, is a different thing. But at some point, you hope that it takes 5 years to be exposed. That's a great run.
Yep.
You hope that it takes that time. But usually in 6 months, I can figure out if somebody truly wants to, really do it.
Yep.
Because you can only deal with the excuses for so long.
Well, the other thing you got to be prepared to deal with is, especially in a role like mine, I'm already having conversations with coaches, and I'm telling them about some of my ideas and aspirations and how I want to do this, to attack this thing. and I get giggles. I get, hey, how old are you? Are you like 20? I don't think you can do that at your age. Or you're gonna be there 20 hours a day. So you got to have enough of a plan to be able to address some of that. It's got to be realistic.
You can't come in and just work like a bull in a china shop.
Right. I like to use the analogy, a bull in a ballet tutu. So enough muscle when we need it, but we can be delicate about it, because obviously there are a lot of things that a place like that, A&M, they do a lot of things well. They compete very well. They have a history of being at the highest levels of competition across the board. So not to say we need to rewrite the script, but in terms of this one particular service and how it's implemented and delivered to student athletes, that can definitely be revolutionized. And that's where I'm at.
I'm a little foggy. Is the SEC as good at hoops as it is at football? Or is it mainly football?
I would argue, and I don't have statistics right now.
I'm not a big college hoops guy.
It's very strong in baseball. Obviously, football is a mecca. But also things like track and field, man, there's a lot of Olympians that come out of the SEC. A lot of world champs.
Yeah, incredible athletes.
Yeah, definitely. And the region just has a lot to offer. I mean, the region is vast. The recruiting pools are vast. And you know, the South, I mean, where a lot of those areas where they're recruiting, man, there's a lot of tough people from down there. There's a lot of good, high-integrity 17-year-olds to get your hands on. They can do a great job in your program. So they're in the thick of it, and they push the envelope with high-caliber coaches and high-caliber administrators and professionals. And I think that's why you see a certain level of success consistently across the SEC, minus, one or two. We won't call them out, but
I think, who are the ones? SMU. SMU's like the lowest rung of SMU.
I don't know. But
I don't know. I'm trying to
like the Vanderbilts,
because they're all loaded. I'm just trying to find where the bottom is, and I don't think it's
like the Vanderbilts. I mean, Vandy's got awesome baseball, but they're
subpar in some other areas.
Yep, they're up and down. Some have more of a tradition in one thing versus the other. When I was a kid in the early 90s, late 80s, man, LSU basketball was
fire,
badass. And, they've had their ups and downs.
Shaq.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people forget about Pistol Pete Maravich, man. Like,
I think hoops is like a redheaded stepchild to football and SEC a little bit. Only because it's hard to compete with Duke and North Carolina, but
you've always got that goat.
But if that's
Kentucky
like
basketball,
yeah, if you're like 4 or 5 and that's what you're shooting for, I mean, that's an exciting place to be. To put it in perspective, guys, that's crazy. It's going to be bittersweet seeing you go. It's going to be hard. It's going to be I know we got some more time together, but it's going to be a hard thing. We've developed a good friendship over the last year and a half, and I think it's going to be one of those things, but I think it's absolutely what's best for you.
Yeah, no, I've felt nothing but support from my local buddies here, particularly yourself and this crew you got here at the show. But what I would say a perimeter byproduct that's just been awesome is I've always wanted to be around and observe and have some eyeballs and get a feel for different aspects of the firearms industry. From a tactical standpoint, from a competitive standpoint, from a practical, outdoors hunting environment, that kind of thing. It just intrigues me. I grew up around some of it, but not at a high level of understanding. And so that's just been a fruitful byproduct with being around this crew here. And the fact that you guys are so passionate about sports and athletics and fitness. And like, to me, that I was like, holy shit, I can fit in here. Like, this is a good crew to run around with. So yeah, man, that part's bittersweet because those of you who don't know, I mean, the PI is, 4 minutes down the road. So if I need an escape at lunchtime, it's a great place to come hang out, practice some trigger pulls, and like just kind of jerk around for a little bit.
Well, we built Disneyland.
Yeah.
That was the general idea. Now, I here's the thing, Bo, and this gets into a deeper philosophical thing. And I think
be getting deep. You just poured some whiskey, so
booze. This is, what do we have here? This is some kind of brand, Texas Ranger. This is Rebecca Creek stuff, I think.
This Rebecca Creek that I just got done with, by the way, was delicious.
Oh, wow.
I've never had this, but it was awesome.
Shout out to Rebecca Creek.
Definitely.
Now, Dave can attest to this too. The thing I read the tea leaves on a couple years ago was just I saw this melting pot of fitness, athletes, just like I've always said on the show, more capable people, just intrigued and interested in learning more about what the gun, and that's what I always thought the gun industry was. Now, when I got into the firearms industry, what I learned in my years was it's actually one of those industries where they'll gladly take your money, but there's a huge segment that wants to play gatekeeper. Like, this group is good, that group isn't. This group's cool, that group isn't. And it was the old timers that were very secular in so many ways. And like, you had to fit into a box, you had to fit into the veteran box, or you had to fit, and I know you see it from the outside.
Sounds a lot like strength and conditioning, man.
You had to fit into these boxes. Am I right in saying that, Dave? I think that's...
Yeah, no, it's been something that's run through the industry.
Louder your mic.
Everybody's got their, what's that?
Louder your mic. I can't hear you. There
you go.
Yeah, better.
It's always been out there. Everybody's got something that they want to shoot for, something they want to aspire from, somebody they want to learn from, someone they feel is a rung above them. I think that's a natural evolution to it, though.
Yeah, and I think it's fear. I think there's a little fear. Like, what do you mean? And, what does expansion look like? And I just wanted to develop a place. I felt like in the industry there wasn't a mic or a studio or anything that was really creating an experience for new shooters and people new coming into the community. Not that you were new, but there really isn't a great bridge to say, like, come on, like, let's talk about some of this stuff. Let's tie all these things together. And I think it's because the industry got so obsessed with just cramming a product. Like, a manufacturer just crams a product down your throat. And there's not a lot of everything else. And I think that was always a huge mistake of the industry. One of the tough things in my position doing this, and hearing you say that as a friend means so much to me, because the hard thing for me, as you know, is I'm battling the establishment. The establishments hate me, and NRA, NSSF hate me, and they hate me because I'm pointing out flaws that I'm willing to fix, and I think we all should fix as an industry to get better, and they're like, who the fuck are you? And that's the hard thing when you start to fight things on a global level like that across the spectrum, and I'm trying to show the industry that we can play in the mainstream, but you have to be open. If you want to keep playing in the sandbox, and you want to put, like I've always said at the national level, it's the only industry that does not put somebody on TV to talk about the industry that's actually affected by the industry. That is, well, we're doing that now with medicine, but that's a whole nother topic and another podcast. But in our industry, they're so quick to just say, we're just going to put Joe shit on the air because, he was a SEAL or he was this. And it doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense. And it's like the left hand isn't talking to the right, but that's what they've developed. And they create a lot of people in the industry that aren't building those connectivity, that relationship. And it's frustrating to see. It's great. How many, we do a lot of events, Dave. We do a lot of events that are events for influencers or people that, veterans or people that have trigger time. How many events do you know of at a national level that are events that are for new shooters, or like we did with the UFC?
Yep. And being on my side, man, just talking to all of my buddies, like, there are so many out there that would love the opportunity.
100%. Dive in. Free.
Yeah.
Free. Take my money.
A lot of them would, they'd pay for it. They'd pay to go to an event like that just to get exposed, gain some experience, and get some education.
But it's a battle. It's a battle to get these brands and these entities to understand that. I mean, I had listen, I'm going to say something that needs to be said. And I know you're just going to be here because it has to be. It's a little bit of a rant. But I want you to understand, like, why it means so much to me for you to say that you felt open. That's the key language there, to talk to me about these things. And I went to the NSSF as an entity, and I begged them. I said, you want to try to do something with the UFC? You want to try to do something? And you just get nothing. And I would work for those guys for free. I would help them for nothing. And it's a very frustrating thing in this industry that they're not even open to listening. And if you get the ear or the ability to sit with guys like you, guys like Dana, guys like from other industries, bodybuilders, Jake, all these different industries, and they're not even like open to understanding, like that person might have some value to have a conversation with or to bring into the fold, nothing will.
Yep.
And so you just got to win it at the ground level, guys. You know, your friends and people you love and people you respect. And that's what this show was. It might take 1,000 episodes. It certainly, 400 wasn't enough.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Yep.
So to everybody out there that thinks, oh yeah, I want quick results, I'm still here 405 in or whatever it is, still battling for the same respect in so many ways. But it's crazy how no one wants to give it to you. Ever.
It goes back to, look, changing culture is tough anywhere. You got to have an army of key players that are interested in doing that. And like you said, you'll have people willing to do it for free. But the key players, the stakeholders, they know how hard it is. And some of them just aren't prepared to fight those battles. They just, whether they don't have the will or they don't have the wherewithal or whatever, they just not ready to tackle that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So I take strengthening. I think the S&C world's had bigger growth at a global level, that it's being recognized at least as a true profession, because I know it battled for professionalism for a long time.
Definitely.
And it's gotten there, but we were talking about this morning, Dave and I don't think this, in our industry anyway, has understood that you have to bring people in that know what they're doing and know how to speak to different audiences. And that's something that you have to master at any level of a job if you're going to be the head of anything.
The connection piece is huge, and you got to be able to connect with, 360, everything around you, especially in an industry that has the ability to reach and touch literally every region globally.
You can't close it off before it starts.
Definitely.
And that's part of the problem, is you kind of have they don't even see, a lot of orgs don't see that they have a closed off mentality. Now, you just went hunting.
Yep.
Big Chino.
I did.
You love it there.
Man, those guys.
You love it there.
Well,
you move in.
I would. Oh my goodness, I would in a heartbeat. Obviously, dude, there's some incredible game running around those mountains out there with those guys.
He went out and got like a bunny.
But what they provide, I didn't even get that.
He got like a fucking bunny.
Now,
Don't tell me some fictitious story about a caribou.
Me and Brandon Lilly did murk a bunny during archery season, but that was out of
We
frustration.
murked a bunny.
Don't say that out loud. But
I would like a rabbit's foot.
yeah,
Wasn't
what
very
those
lucky
guys-
for the rabbit.
I know.
wrong place, wrong time. But what those guys, man, when you watch those dudes work, the mileage those dudes cover on their feet in their trucks with the shit on their backs and the animals on their back. It's inspiring, dude. It is. The hunt is exciting, being out there in the wilderness in really tough terrain.
You would send me pictures
we're not
like, this is
talking
just
about-
me hanging out.
Yeah, we're not talking about, getting guided through a flat field and you sit, in a corner and you wait, and this guy's been feeding cake to this buck for 3 months and now he's just.
You mean that happens in the hunting
Oh
world?
my gosh. And we're the last day I was there, we did about it couldn't have been longer than like a 35-minute climb. I don't know how straight up it was, but it was damn near straight up. And we got to the top, and the guy I'm with, I don't know, he's like 28 years old. And I was like, dude, I'm not as good as I once was. Like, he goes, oh man, you did fine. Took me at least 20 minutes to gather if something had come out, there's no way I could have settled down and took a shot. Like, it took me at least 20, 30 minutes to calm myself down, get the sweat off my brow so I could actually pay attention and focus and start to glass. But what those guys provide, that's what keeps me coming back, man. They provide an experience that's authentic. You're going to earn it, and you're going to feel proud of it once you do it. And you're connected to it, man. It is a challenge. And if you don't like that kind of shit, you won't like it out there, because there's nothing comfortable about it. But yeah, they educate, man. They explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, what they're reading, what the information is they're gathering to tell us, what we're doing. So yeah, shout out to Big Chino.
You love those guys.
The Vicentes, man, JP and his boys, and all of their guides. They're world class. They're excellent.
You love it there.
I do. And I didn't know a whole lot about Arizona prior to coming out here, other than it gets hot. That's all I knew.
Oh, wow.
Man, it is diverse. They have everything. They have mountains. They have lakes. They have streams. They have plains. They have cold. They got
dirt.
Burning ass hot. They got it all. And I just thought it was a desert, like Vegas, but it's not, man. It's if you like the outdoors, it's a wonderland.
Which rifle did you take?
I had my Sig Cross, but I actually, Michael Vicente let me use a 28 Nosler that he's been pretty successful.
Ooh, a Gucci gun.
There. Yeah, man.
Gucci guns.
I needed just in case I needed a little more reach, which out there, those guys do not mess around with. If they have an opportunity at a world-class bull, they'll hike up to the highest peak and take a good poke. So
don't you love Nosler guys, Dave? I shoot 28 Nosler.
That's a
sorry.
caliber?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want a problem.
That's the other thing about this industry. Like, regardless of what you like to do, you better get ready to get poked at and have some thick skin. But it's all love at the end.
I think there's some stuff that is just the way it is. Like, if you have some shiny new Nikes, you're probably going to have somebody kick a little dirt on them. But yeah, Nosler is definitely a Gucci round. I don't think that's disputed, right? I think
No, that's definitely not. That's
definitely Gucci.
like I said,
$3 a
that's
shot.
a caliber?
Oh, I had all my buddies take, where's your 300 Win Mag? Where's your, dude, I don't care.
Yeah.
I need to go bang.
Yeah. You need a 50. Be nothing left but feathers. That's it.
My 5x25 optic, though, was.
I didn't want to bring that up. I didn't want to bring it up. So to everybody listening, I'm going to tell the story now because you wanted to be a motherfucker.
I know you love that story. So
it's a good story. So Bo walks in my office like the first week I knew him. It wasn't, but I'm actually being nice to you saying that. It was early on. And he's like, I'm going hunting. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, and if you spent a lot of time on the range.
I don't sound like that, first off. I've never spoken like that. So
going hunting. So if you spent a lot of time on the range, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, call me a liar. You can learn how to take a 300-yard shot, 100 to 300. You could figure that out. You can learn that. And you can learn that locally and you could train for it. Bo comes in and he's like, just to give everybody perspective, when you start pushing, Dave, 800 to 1,200 yards, you better know what the fuck you're doing. And in scoping, people don't understand this, and I'm not trying to, guys, I'm not trying to get into scope theory. I'm not a sniper. I'm just giving you basics. I mean, you can use, Marine Corps, you could use irons to 300 yards. Red dot can serve a lot. A 1x6 can really do a lot. Am I right in all saying all that, Dave?
Yeah, 3 to 9 was, the deer hunting caliber.
So anybody
for
can
ages, short, long. Look at snipers, World War II. They weren't using
now. I think
bows 5x25.
Yeah, I think every long range instructor will agree with me.
Since you guys are dancing around, I don't own a
5x25. Wait. Let me get to this story. I'm hyping the story. So Bo says to me, I need it now. I want everybody to understand this isn't John. I know everything. This is John. Like, you need some training for that tool. Like he goes, I want to get a good scope. I'm thinking like a 5x25. I'm like, 5x25? Where are you shooting? To a mile? You need like a scope theory class. You need like
Pause.
All right, go ahead. Tell your version.
He says,
tell your truth.
Look at this website. Take a look. And then let me know what you're thinking. I'm like, well, they got so many on here. So the first one I rattled off was at the top of the page on the website. I'm like, this one's a 5x25. Jesus Christ, what are you doing? Like, where are you shooting to the moon?
I couldn't even begin to listen. The furthest shot I've ever taken for the record on this show, and there was 2 people there that can attest to it. Matt Malik there was from Malik Precision. I think I've shot about 1,200 yards. That's about it. And I say that's about it because there's some guys that make some amazing shots, okay? Long range. And you're talking about a moving target. Dave's a resident hunter. 5x25, obnoxious. Obnoxious. Like, you show up with that and you don't know what you're doing, it's going to show real quick. And that was why I hassled
after gaining this valuable information and knowledge.
In this house of love.
I just said, okay, great. What do I need? Tell me what I need. And they were gracious to give me some iron sights. So.
And I put it all back in perspective. But you have to understand, when you're stalking an animal and it's that far, 100 yards feels like 500.
Yep.
And when people start pulling out some lumber to go long, you're talking about like on the mountain range, a mountain away.
Speaking of
just making that shot,
man, I was just chatting with the other day. I was chatting with Jeremiah from Right On, and he was telling me about
he's got
some of their
stories.
Competitions. Man, some of their like 2,500 yard, talking like 2 months.
Oh yeah, that's major shit.
Whew, I can't even imagine what that looks like in whatever optic. I don't know what they're using, but that's a poke. That blows my mind. That's the kind of shit that intrigues me about this whole genre of sport.
Anything over 1,000, Dave, is respectable.
1,000 is respectable. I mean,
with any
posted
caliber.
something the other day asking people what their longest shot was. I think 2 out of probably 50 said their longest shot ever was between 200 and 300 yards.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, the problem is so many people go and they see what they can do on the bench, not what they can do in the field, not what they can do at elevation, not what they can do in wind, not what they can do with time of flight and the animal moves.
An animal
There's
moving.
So many things.
Hey, shout out to Sig for letting us play around with some of that at the Sig game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you got to, and the point is, not that I'm not telling anybody to not go out and buy a 300 Win Mag with a 5x25. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you get something like that, you need to seek out some training. Go see somebody that can teach you a lot of that stuff, like a Tyler Hughes, or certain people that are out there that can teach you long range shooting. It's not something you could just dive into and be like, I got this scope and I'm just going to sit here. And when the animal pops up fucking 3 towns away.
Which is another, what I think would be an awesome next event, potentially, is doing a long range deal where you bring some of those guys in to teach that stuff. I mean, obviously, basics. I don't know how much field work, but it might start out on a bench or laying prone. But, yeah, that's for people to gain an appreciation of just what kind of skill that is, because that's a different ball game.
Dave, you could count, to give everybody perspective on this, anything over 1,000, you could probably count on one hand how many times you've seen that shot made.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that, Dave? I would say.
I'm kind of jaded because of some of the people that I've hung out with over the years.
But 1,000
manufacturers and long range shooters, competition guys, and that. Yeah, I've seen it quite a bit. But
no, outside of competition, take competition out.
Ballistic like I say, it's all the ballistic calculation. It's not hard when someone else sets up the rifle for you.
Yeah, that's different.
Someone else puts out the gun. It's there. It's sighted. It's ready. Then it's just trigger control. Put the crosshairs on it and trigger control. When you have to control all those variables, you might as well be trying to make a hole in one on the moon. I got as much chance.
Yeah. Try to give everybody perspective. Try taking a standing iron sight AR shot at 300 yards. Just try to take that.
I'll go one better. Go out there with the steel, bang on it a couple of times from the bench, then pick up the gun and just shoot it at 100 yards offhand.
Hey, you said it.
Just start there and just start going bang, bang, bang and making it ring that way.
That's why when you say sometimes to some guys, and this is where the angst comes in, like most people work 75 yards in on a range, 100 yards, 75 in. Because you're training for practicality, and you have to really specialize to get good at that. So we gave Bo a really hard time. I
loved it. I laughed my ass off.
But along the way in this house of love, you learned quite a few tricks of the industry and got to meet some really good people. And that's really what it's all about. And in turn, I'm indebted to you forever because I got to meet even what I consider greater people, people I call friends today that were a big part of my life in making the decision to move forward even with this, which was huge. So I'm more indebted to you than you'll ever be to me, and I don't think I could ever pay you back.
This is all recorded, right, Dave?
Give him a 5x25. You'll pay him.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Done. It's that easy.
No, man.
I was thinking that. It's a good holiday gift.
That's hilarious.
It's fun for the whole family.
Just out of pure honor, I could never put that on a rifle. I'd have to just stay on the
It would have to be more of a bat for the front door than anything. What did you put on the Sig Cross? What's on that? That BDX?
Yeah, yep,
that BDX.
And that thing is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that was fun.
Dave's talking about someone setting up the rifle for you. I mean, the BDX kind of does that for you. There's some initial setup, but man, what an innovation that is.
Yeah, they don't fuck around.
Like me.
Yeah, they don't play. Now they're going to do that again. That 100 games deal. That's going to happen.
That's what
again.
I hear. Yeah. Man,
are they inviting people back for part 2, or is it like a new cast?
I don't know. We did so poorly, they might tell us to stay the hell away. But
I'm sure we could crash. Yeah. I was thinking of crashing this year. Maybe we'll crash either way.
Dude,
I was thinking
I'll go pitch a 10 out there.
I'll go see those guys. It'd be fun. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited, and you know.
So really quick before we bounce on that, I got an awesome message from Hannah the other day. Hannah Billadou from SIG, and
shout out to Hannah.
How involved and how many events they do with the troops down there at A&M. They have a massive ROTC program and
ROTC.
Yeah, and yeah, she rattled off a few things I had no awareness of, but man, it sounds exciting. Some of the different things that they've got their fingers into from an outreach and development standpoint. So I'm interested in seeing how I can help her out with some of those cool projects down the line around that area.
I think it's amazing, and I think you're going to do a lot of really cool stuff down there, because if that's the case and they're open to that already in terms of the campus and things like that, I think you're going to have the best of a lot of worlds. Certainly hunting, certainly, and then freedoms.
I hear hunting is not bad in Texas.
It's not bad. It's very not bad. And I think the COVID restrictions, which it's been better here, but will be even better.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking more of like a global life perspective, guys. So it'll be exciting. I'm excited. I'm happy for you.
Thanks, man.
I really am.
Yeah, I feel it. I mean, like I said, I've gotten a ton of support around here, and you always wonder if people are like stick their nose up. Oh, what's that guy doing? But,
Fuck him.
I think a lot of that too is that I typically hang around people that are genuinely interested in me and my best interests, and that kind of resonates. And usually on the back end, you get nothing but support. So yeah, that's been.
Well, I mean,
awesome.
I think who you figure out along the way. It's hard when distance is created. It's hard to still be buddies. Like, I'm not going to be able to dart over anymore, but I think we'll get the opportunity to spend some time together, because I truly value the things that you're putting into the universe, and that's what matters more than anything. If you value what someone's putting into the universe, you'll spend time with that person.
No doubt.
Not to make it weird, but
Oh yeah, I get it.
you know what I mean.
I don't mind getting mushy. I'm not insecure when it comes to that.
I am, because I'm a real man.
Be a man.
Be a man. Don't cry. Just
Put your feelings in your boot, not on your sleeve.
Wow.
Be a man.
wow. Is that a term? Is that something somebody says? Fucking amazing.
Our boy will probably make a meme out of it here in a couple of days.
So, when do you report over there?
December 6th is first day, boots on the ground. I'm going to try to make the drive probably December 2nd or 3rd, something like that. Family's not going to come down till a little later. My boys got to get done with school. They got to wrap up around December 18th or something like that. So we'll be together for the holidays. We'll get them down there before Christmas.
And we got the flip-flop guy coming.
Man.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Let's talk about that. Andy.
When is that? A week, right?
December 1st. Yep.
Hey guys, the flip-flop guy comes to town. Bo stepped up and volunteered his barbecue for the meat slicing.
Dude. So this is not, I tell people, this is not just a meal. This is an event. Like what Andy does and how he does it, and there's history to it. There is a
story to the meat carving
of where that comes from, and his family is rich and deep in it. But check him out, the Flip Flop Guy on IG, if you want to learn about kind of what he does and what that. I mean, it's more than just sharing meat. There's a lot to it, but it is delicious.
Listen,
and,
I was gonna have Andy on the show. He did Scott Volkortsen's show, and I said, geez, I've heard a lot about that guy. I want to do it. So go check out Scott's show at him. If you guys check out a show,
That's a good show.
Scott's got fancy lights and all kinds of weird shit.
how about
that's cool.
their headquarters?
He's done a great job. You know what it is? The little fuck. He listened to everything I said, and he took it and he 10x'd it. So he's a good businessman. Man. Go check out Scott Volkortsen's show. He's even got some cool pictures from the show on his thing, but on his IG and everywhere else. But yeah, did you see his set yet, Dave? He's got like these incandescent lights, fucking candles, romance.
His whole headquarters, man. It is.
He's building out
epic.
like I'll be like, hey, you should consider like some cool mics. He went out and bought like solid gold microphone, like whatever I suggested he took and added to. So good for him. But go check it out. He did Scott's show. And I said, geez, I've heard a lot about this guy, which I have, because we share a couple mutual friends, Bernsey, Akuyu, and some of these guys. And I just never had him on. Not for any reason. I just didn't really have that connection. So I called Bo and I said, hey, I'm having this guy, and I know you're kind of, who he is, and you're loose. I said, the flip-flop guy. And he goes, you're not going to have him do a flip-flop? Like he lost his mind, And I said, it's not that I wasn't going to have him. I just didn't know how to facilitate it. Like I get awkward in those moments. And we were talking about this yesterday. It's hard for me to like just throw together a barbecue or some shit. Like I don't know who would come, or I'm not like that guy. But right away you were like, I got 20 people in on this. We got midgets flying through the air.
That's an easy one. Andy's like extended family. We'll get him over in a heartbeat. We'll take care of him.
Your reaction was everything. What do you mean?
Well,
like I would kidnap somebody?
That to me, and then it couldn't have been an hour later. He called me up. He's like, "Hey man, I'm coming to Vegas. I'd really like to connect." I go, "Dude, are you guys not doing a flip flop on that show?" He's like, "Well, I don't know. It's at the studio." And I'm like, Let's figure it out. We'll do it at my house.
Well, it didn't make sense to do it here, and then it was like we're just kind of sorting out the logistics, like how could we do this and what would make sense. But I didn't realize you guys. I knew you knew each other, but then when I pieced it all together, I'm like, all right, this makes sense.
And another person that has honestly, he's taught me a lot about hunting. Man, that guy has been hunting his whole life, and he is damn good at it in all kinds of regions. And so we shared that. Mutual interest, me being more of a newbie and him being a longtime veteran. And if you listen to Scott's podcast, you'll get a picture of where he's come from, his trials and tribulations, and then his success. I mean,
crazy
he's had an
story.
Uprising, man. The guy is killing it right now, and he's got a great product. I mean, if people think about traditions like. I just had this conversation the other day because in Louisiana we deep fry all our turkeys. It's Cajun fry. We don't bake turkeys. So you have those things
super healthy
regionally, right? If you go
deep.
up to the north, you go to New England or whatever, they talk clam chowder. Like you can get clam chowder in Florida. Shit ain't the same. You have lobster in Maine compared to lobster in New Mexico. The shit ain't the same. Well, what Andy brings to the table with the whole flip-flop idea, man, it brings a whole new flavor to wild game, and it is delicious.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I felt like I did something wrong. I felt like I had to go to church or talk to somebody. I never felt so small. I was like, oh shit, like I'm not in on it.
You're gonna love it. You'll love it.
So we got a good crew for that, right? Who's on the list?
We've got.
You said Claudia Valentino.
I think Claudia. I don't know if Valentino's going to be in town or not, but her and Antonina got the invite. Joe Benavidez and Megan O'Leary.
Joey B.
I believe Cody Stamen.
Yeah, he wouldn't miss it.
No, he's down.
He's definitely not missing.
I believe we're going to have Brad Tavares. Trying to think.
I don't know if we have enough. You need like 16 people.
No, not that many. We're looking for like a dozen.
Tell him to send 2. Send 2.
So I'm waiting to see what he brings down. He's going to ship it out here soon. I'm waiting to see.
And then we'll figure out like how.
It's going to be he said it's either going to be an axis leg or it's going to be an antelope leg.
And he cuts it as he flips it. That's the whole thing, right?
Yeah, so it comes out, it's medium rare, and his marinade is the magic. His family's recipe marinade, which he sells now, he's built a business off of it, is amazing. And he bastes it with a brush that's made out of rosemary. And basically he
how the fuck do you have a brush made out of rosemary?
Dude, he builds it. Like, we'll buy a whole bush and just tie it together.
Oh, my God.
He turns it into a mop. Just mops this thing down, sears one side. It goes about 1 minute to 90 seconds. He flips it as he's basting the other. He bastes the other side. He flips it, and that side's done. So he just shaves the very top and serves it. And then he rebastes that. By the time he's done basting, flips it back over. The other side's done, and he shaves that. And he just keeps flipping and flopping until you're down to the bone. And so you can use it as fajita meat. You can just eat it as a standalone. You can, whatever, but it is delicious.
Imagine having a guy do that every day for you. Like, just like, what's tonight? We're just going to have this leg of whatever. And he just sits there and carves the meat. I mean, people pay for chefs.
The butchering process, too, to make the leg where you can just do it like that. Like, they leave the tendon intact. It kind of makes a nice little handle. You can slip your hand in it, and it's far away enough from the fire. You don't burn your hand. So yeah, there's a technique to it, and he does it on open flames. He's done it on birch barrels. He's done it on Weber's. Anything that's got an open flame, he can do it. They did at Summer Strong with Sornex this past year. They did an elk leg, and they put 2 skewers on each side. And
that sounds so good.
They had to take, there's a guy on each side flipping at the same time, basting and shaving, and they flip it back the other way.
The elk leg,
big old hunk of meat.
Yeah,
man, it was delicious.
Oh,
so good. Now, if you're in the right place at the right time, which is right at the very end, that's where you want to be. To get your hand on that leg and just chew the remainder off the bone is amazing. It is amazing.
Listen, the flip-flop guy.
Yep.
What does he charge?
I don't know. Not enough. The guy should be a millionaire because it's.
Yeah, but he's one man. Like, do you have other?
He's got a crew that helps him out. He's got a network of people that help him out. But now they started distributing the legs. So people are like, how do I get my hands on a leg if I'm not a hunter? But I like eating it, And so he's got distribution.
He's a dealer.
Axis legs, and
they're so big you can't put them in the oven.
No,
not most ovens. Yeah.
Industrial, yeah. But
I mean, they're
check
huge.
him out. He's got a shop online and everything, so look him up. Andy Markle, the flip-flop guy.
Well, I don't want this to end.
What else we got?
I don't know.
Feel like
How long are we in?
Hell, I don't know.
Go over the screen, the other screen.
Yeah, an hour and 4 minutes.
Oh, we gotta
5.
We gotta end. We got food out there.
Let's eat some lunch.
Listen, I love you. I'm man enough to say that. It takes a real man to say that.
No doubt.
You don't have to say it back, but I do. Okay? And someday maybe I'll be able to pay you back for all the love you've bestowed on me, even though you won't say it. I think you're great.
I love you, John.
Oh, you heard it here first. See? 2 real men can be sensitive.
No doubt.
Love you too, Dave.
I was wondering. I thought there was no love for Dr. Dave. Just run the board. Shut up. No love for Dr. Dave. I mean, what's to do?
Oh, listen.
Drop in some snide
You've been
comments about shooting behind steel sights.
We'll talk about
Did
that.
not drop in nothing about
Some snide.
5 by 25 maybe, but nothing about steel.
5 by 25.
Totally respect for the irons.
5 by 25. 90% of the people that buy a 5 by 25 never use it.
They just use it wrong.
Yeah. Never truly harness the full power of
They don't understand that a 5 by 25 has a 5 setting. They just straight try and go to 25.
Telescope on a rifle.
Seriously. Thank you for coming in and doing it. I know you turned down a lot of podcasts. You didn't want to talk about a lot of this stuff. You wanted to be private. I want everybody to know that I harassed him to come do this because I felt like it was a good thing, and he's my friend, and I forced him to kind of come to this therapy session and open up.
It was good. Glad I did.
I appreciate you. All right, listen, hey, leave some reviews, guys. Go like and subscribe. Share this around. You all know Bo's story. If you haven't checked out his older episodes, he's been a stalwart at the UFC for a long time in the strength and conditioning program there. He's going to Texas A&M. Show him some support. Show him some love. It means a lot. And I want to thank some of the sponsors. Of course, we mentioned many of them during the show. 6 Hour Enforce, Pulsar, Blackwater Ammunition, Galco Leather Holsters, Rhino Metals, and Gallo Technologies. Of course. Right On Optics. Go check them out. Kenzie's Optics. Guys, thank you. And thank you to Dr. Dave, and special thanks to Cheaper Than Dirt. Appreciate you guys. We're out.